Hi, guys. We are so glad that you could join us tonight. I'm very excited about being able to take and share with you some of the ideas that have to do with our Horbelt Intermediate School. Welcome back, and I hope that you have a great night tonight. When we began the Horbelt School, we first started by trying to find out what parent concerns were. So, 3 years ago, we did a survey for the community. We surveyed the students, and out of those surveys came information about what was hoped for in this building. One of the things was advanced classes, which we have. Another thing was sports, which we have that opportunity to give the sixth graders. Parents also wanted a foreign language in the building, which we did do. We also surveyed the students, and we looked to see what they were interested in having. And most of those concerns that we found that they were interested in, we were able to take and address in our building too. And the whole concept of Horbelt is to be a true middle stepping stone between the elementary and the middle school levels. And so you'll hear things. In fact, you'll see very distinct things between the fifth and the sixth grades that are different and are part of that stepping stone process. We are fortunate this summer that we had some summer work done. You'll notice out front is our new Horbelt sign, which is part of our One Barnegat now because it has the colors of the Bengal, which we are all working towards. And then we were also very fortunate to have our summer suite redone, where we had a carpet that was very old taken out, and we were fortunate to have new floors put in. We are excited about being able to use this space this year. All the students, when they come into Horbelt, will have the following kinds of classes. They will have English in a double block every day. They will have math in a double block every day. They will have science, and the students in science class will meet in a hybrid schedule where on one day they'll have the teachers will have each of their science classes, and then for the other 2 days a week, they will have students in the double block for what they're assigned to. This is also paired up with the social studies part so that the kids in that group segment can flip flop on the separate days. So, for example, a student who has science and social studies 8 periods a day on Monday, science students might then go back to the science class on Tuesday and Thursday, and then have their social studies classes on Wednesday and Friday. And so it's the same amount of time, it's just distributed differently. Every day, kids will have their favorite period of the day, which is lunch, and lunch also includes a brief recess. All students have phys ed, although the sixth grade students have phys ed and health or wellness twice a week. And then finally, we have the OSS period for pull ups during the day. Students at our school have the opportunity to be involved with the following electives. In the fifth grade, students have music, science, which is infused through the computers, art, physical education, a half a year of media working in the library tech room in Spanish. And in the sixth grade, and this is one of the places where you can see that distinction between fifth and sixth grade right away. Music and chorus, STEM, art, physical education and wellness, and then Spanish. However, these classes will meet on quarter schedules rather than once a day schedules like the elementary level. The OSS period is a period that we have built into our day, so students can be pulled out to get other services without taking away from their academic time. And these are some of the things that we offer for those supplemental services. One of the things that we tried to do, and this also came out of the survey that we did with the students, is provide a robust co-curricular program. And here are a number of the clubs that we offer. We will be having in the end of September a club fair where students will have more information presented about these different clubs and then given the opportunity to sign up for them. And then we will start them at the beginning of October. Athletics for the sixth graders fall along this spectrum, and students who were interested in this should already have received information from the school via email, okay, earlier in August. My understanding is that sports will be starting for all middle school students about halfway through September. So look for more information to come about that as well. This year, we're very excited to have a couple initiatives going on in our building. One is that we'll be focusing on writing alignment, where we will be taking and rolling out a robust writing program to get the kids to practice writing more, and especially focus on writing that is expected to be done according to the NJSLA standards. You'll hear more about that as we go through the year. We also have some exciting social emotional learning programs that will be working into our fabric of the school this year. We had two counselors who were trained in the Nurtured Heart program, which teaches adults how to stress being positive all the time and working on behaviors based on that positive approach. And then, second step is a program which has specific behavioral lessons about how to address things that occur so that students can learn how to manage the stress and sometimes struggle that comes as we grow up. It's part of life, and so we want to teach rather than avoid, and that's the purpose of Second Step. We're going to be working on behavior management again. Last year, we saw that a number of our students had a problem with remembering how to behave in school. So that's one of the things that we're going to start off as a year-long initiative, and we're going to teach and educate and hold accountable. We're also very excited that this year we bring into the school a drone project where students are going to learn how, through sixth grade STEM, pilot drones, with the idea hopefully next year that we can get to the point where the students can race drones. And then finally, we have a partnership with Rutgers to work on a climate cooperative initiative, which will roll out sometime in the middle of winter, and you'll be hearing more about that shortly. Social emotional learning is a big part of what we have to do here. And we learned last year as we came back through the second year of COVID that a lot of our kids were really not okay. So we have to make sure that we focus on those emotional and relational things that matter to kids. And that's why we have these programs here and the stress that we have in our building about building positive relationships to move forward. We have a lot of work to do, but I'm confident that because we have a lot of adults in this building who care, that we are going to make a difference in this area. Part of that social emotional learning aspect is restorative discipline. And the concept of restorative discipline is not that students don't have a consequence, but along with that is the concept that students have to understand how what they've done has impacted others and then go back and work on repairing that breach in relationships. There is an understanding that we have a responsibility to one another in terms of how we relate to one another. We have to make sure that even if we don't like somebody, we can take and respond respectfully. That's something that we're going to focus on here in our building. You will hear throughout this year that we're going to be working on kindness and respect. It's based on the assignment that I asked people to do this summer, which is to take a look at wonder. And wonder is that story again about that fifth grade student who comes into a new school who's a little bit different, and then how he learns to find his place and be able to navigate through childhood into maturity. Every student in our building has his or her own Chromebook. It's a one-to-one solution with every student being able to access any materials that they may need online for the classes that they are in. As you may notice, traffic at Horville is not a pleasant thing. So one of the things that we found to be the best solution, because we've tried having different flows, we've tried having different designs, it's just not built for the kind of traffic that comes through here. Is for everybody to be patient, to be kind, to think about when you have to pick up your kid, and then to also be conscious of the fact that other people may have bad days, and to give them a little bit of social grace so that we can do what we need to do to get our child and get them home safely. All of our students will be have an opportunity to work in the lunch and have recess. We did have them sign up for recess selections last year, but we're going to take and put that off for a beginning and move that to the end of the year because we found out that it was too much for the kids to start. So we're going to progress to that. Okay, and right now what we're going to do is have classes signed up for specific recess areas. And then we're going to switch weekly, and then at the end of the year, we're going to see if we can have students make their own choices and be responsible for those choices. There's a suggestion box available in the main office if students have ideas. We encourage them to give their ideas to us, and then we try to take and act on them, where they share them with the student advisor group that will be starting once we get into school. One of the things that I always talk to students about and parents is the concept of bullying. And there's a lot of misconceptions about bullying, and it often falls into the misunderstanding about the difference between conflict and bullying. And when I have a group and I ask students and parents to tell me about how much bullying occurs in a school, they're always surprised to see, because as you've guessed, most hands go up when they think that those 85% um, of students in school are bullied. The actual number is really only 5%. And so part of what we try to do is to navigate through and help the students understand the difference between conflict and bullying. We do address everything. We do provide appropriate consequences if they are warranted. We also communicate with the parents. We also try to approach this with an appropriate growth mindset and not label kids so much as help them grow and get beyond the behavior that they're exhibiting if it is something that's inappropriate. I give this as a rule of thumb for all of the teachers and students in the building, because not everything that happens can possibly be bullying. And so we want to make sure we get it down right. So I say to them that when someone says something that's unintentionally hurtful and they do it once, that's being rude. We have a lot of rude people in our society. When someone says or does something intentionally hurtful and they do it once, that's mean. Okay, we have mean people in our society. And so we have to be aware of that as well. And finally, when someone says or does something intentionally hurtful and they keep doing it, even when they're told to stop or you show them that you're upset, that's bullying. Now, because bullying is such a hot topic, it's still a source of problems, and we see it especially in the sixth grade in the past couple of years. We try to take and help our students work through it together. And so, first of all, we teach them about the difference between conflict and bullying. One of the places where I see a lot of things happen, and people talk about this being bully, is when kids are friends and then they have a conflict and then they get into a fight. And then they say that someone else is bullying them. Often, when students have equal power in terms of a relationship, okay, that's a conflict. If something happens and it's not meant to happen and it's accidental, that's a conflict. And what we try to do is help students recognize the difference between conflict and bullying. And so when we have an issue here in school, I ask every person in this building to bring it to an appropriate person so we can resolve it. And that is when there's an issue between people and conflicts between people are normal, that they come down to the guidance office and they say to our counselors or bullying specialists, I'm having a conflict with, which starts the conversation. We have no trouble determining that something is a bullying situation or a conflict. We have no trouble applying consequences. But what we do want to do is make sure that two things happen. One is that we correctly identify what's going on, and then number two is that we appropriately address it with both a appropriate consequence and also a relational intervention. That's how kids grow. If you have a concern on anything that's happening here in the school, this is the general rule of thumb of where to go when there is a concern. First, go to the classroom teacher because they are always your best source of information about what's going on. Then go to the guidance counselor, and then you can go to the vice principal or the principal to get some feedback about what's going on or help in your time of need. For the fifth grade students who can't do the sports, we also have intramurals, which is an afternoon or before school activity period where kids can come in and do fun activities with an adult who is supervising. Another fun thing that we do throughout the year are dances. We'll have one in October right away. We'll have two others, one at Valentine's Day and one in the spring. I think we called that the spring fling in the past. We also get our kids involved in working with others. We love having our fifth graders going up to the Collins School and doing math buddies, and then our sixth graders going up and doing reading buddies, where they sit down with small groups of kids and either work on math problems with them, or in the case of reading buddies, read a story with them and have fun modeling good reading things and being part of that special thing that reading is. You're going to be challenged this year. You'll have some personal things to do in both your math class and your ULA class. And when you hear about these challenges, along with these challenges will also come a way to win an award or a certificate where you can go to Sweet Jenny's and turn that in for an ice cream sundae. More to come on that. This is Mrs. Lane, our vice principal. If you have any problems, you can go and see her. a great help. Also, someone who's really good at putting boundaries in place in terms of understanding what's expected. Both of our counselors are here, Mrs. Germano and Mr. Manny. They'll be willing to work with you with any concern that you might have. This year, Mrs. Germano is working with the fifth graders, and Ms. Hermani is working with the sixth graders. Our instructional coach is Miss McGinnis. You'll hear about her going into classes to help teachers with a multitude of things, basically to help them find ways to improve their practice and help do a better service to the students in terms of learning in the classroom. Our child study team is comprised of Miss Pam Cucci and Miss Kucher. You have already met them or heard from them if you have a child who falls into this category. Our nurse is Miss Manfredi. And this picture shows her like this because we had a slight problem with medication. Here's something that's very, very important. Parents, it's important to remember that no medication can come into school without the approval of the nurse, who will then have some kind of contact with your doctor. And if your child needs to have medication in school, please make sure you contact our nurse to make sure that the appropriate way of this being handled is done. I just want to say this as a caveat for the rest of the year. Students can get into a lot of trouble for having medication in school without permission, without it being properly vetted and recognized by the nurse along with the parent. So please to make sure you follow this very important rule. And finally, one of the things you'll hear us say often is get your splash on. We want you to make a splash and enjoy your time here. High five to a great year. Enjoy your time.